Hey guys, it's Maymay, and today I'm going to show you how to make my most requested card from Cricut Design Space 2. And now I want to show you how to make it in Cricut Design Space 3. I actually had somebody message me over the weekend and say, could you please show me how to do this in the new version? And I thought that's really smart because this card is very requested. So this is the Gatefold or the gate opening card that a lot of people use for wedding invitations. And so I'm going to show you how to do that today. You can use it for anything, but I thought it'd be cool to show you. So to get started today, I want you to see that I have a new little cursor highlighter. See this little green highlighter? It's going to follow my cursor all over the page, and I'm hoping that will help you guys as we move along. But it does not have anything to do with Design Space. So if you see that little circle and you're wondering why it's there on my Design Space and not yours, it shouldn't be. It's just a cursor marker so that you can follow me around. So this is Cricut.com. You can see they've kind of streamlined it, and they're showing us here about the new Cricut Maker machine that's coming out. That's what all this information is. But I want to show you this. This little section has changed a little bit since the last time I was here. It used to be a little more cluttered, but now you just have these two options, Shop or Design. I'm going to click on Design, and we're going to go into Cricut Design Space. Now remember, this is going to take you to Design Space 3 because it is no longer in beta. It is the real deal as of today. So this is the program that you'll be using. Now we're going to sign in to our account just by putting in your name and password. So now we're signed in. Now I want to make a new project. So you can see this one right here that lets me make a new project, but you can also access new project from here at the top right of the screen. I'm just going to use this big green go button, right? So make a new project. So we're on our screen. Notice that my orientation of my screen goes from 1 inch to 20 inches. Yours may not show that many inches. Don't worry if it doesn't. Just come down here and adjust it to be whatever you want it to be. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, whatever you want. I'm okay with 100% showing. Also, before we get started, I just want to point this out. If you don't care for the new grid, you can toggle it. There's a little square right here in the corner where these guys meet. If you click it one time, you can go to just squares. If you click it another time, you can go to nothing, or one more time takes you back to the grid. This grid doesn't bother me. I actually like it, so I'm going to leave it just like this. Now the card we're going to make is going to go into an A2 size envelope. So the first thing I'm going to do is build myself a starting point or a canvas. I'm not using anything called canvas. Sometimes I confuse people when I say that. I'm going to go over here and just create one for myself. So I'm going to come to where it says shapes on the left hand side of the screen and click shapes. Now I'm going to grab a square. Now this is going to be the center portion of my card or my card base. All right. Now I happen to know that I want this square to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 because I want it to fit into an A2 size envelope, which is a standard size for invitations, cards, and things like that. I'm going to head up here to size. Now the first thing we need to do is we need to unlock the proportions of this box. What do I mean by that? If I drag this little corner button, do you see what happens? Everything moves together. But if I unlock it by clicking on this little lock button, and you can see that it unlocks, I can now head here and I can change the height and the width separately. You make sure you want to do that. Now I'm going to head up here to this section that says size. I know I want the width of my card to be 4 1/4, so I'm just going to type in 4.25. So that makes that 4 1/4. Here I'm going to come over and I'm going to type in 5 1/2, and this will make my card 5 1/2 tall, which is exactly what I want. Now the other thing, I don't like to work with this dark gray. This is the default for Cricut and it's perfectly fine, but I don't like to work with that. I'm going to go ahead and change the color of this to white. All I do is head over and click the image and then click white, and now I know that this is my white card base. Now I want to create the doors or the gatefold section of this card around either side. I'm going to do that with a free image. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to head into Cricut Images. Now you could use any image you want. Images that you own, that you purchase, that are on cartridges, that are free, what have you. I want to use a free image. So I'm going to head right here to this word that says filter. And I'm going to look for the button that says free. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to start there because I don't want to pay for anything. And I want to have an image that I can share with you guys. So I'm making sure I'm using a free image. Now, just to make things easy for me today, this image looks like it will be perfect. It's symmetrical. It looks like it's going to be perfect for a circular area. So I'm going to choose this one. So I'm just going to click it. But one of my favorite things is maybe I wasn't sure. Maybe I thought I wanted to use that, but I might like another one. I can also click on multiple images. And as I'm doing this, if you look in the bottom of the screen, see how they're all laying out here kind of in my shopping cart? I can leave them here, so if I want to scroll through page after page of different shapes and sizes, I can do that and not have to worry about coming back and finding all of them. Now, I only want to use the one I chose first, so I'm going to hover over the ones I don't want and click off because those red X's I don't need. Now I'm going to insert this image. So this will bring the image I chose into our card or into our mat. Now you might be thinking, I'm just making this bigger for you to see it just by pulling this edge. You might be thinking, but wow, you got all those colors. How are you going to do this? Well, here's the first thing. I don't want all those colors. I really just want that base layer in the back. So come over here to the side and let's look at some things. This image has 4 layers. Now I can turn these layers off just by closing the eye that is next to the corresponding layer. That just means it's going to make it where you don't see it. And this is really the image that I want. I can also, let me undo that. I'll just click those back on. I can also ungroup this image by selecting it, coming to the top and picking ungroup. And then I can delete these pieces out that I want to. I'm going to grab this top one, click that X, grab this one, click that X, grab this one. I think I may not click this X. I'll tell you why. I kind of like the shape of this one versus this one. I think I may use this image instead of this one. You make these decisions based on, look how crisp and clean this image is, because it is more of an image where this is more of a shadow. I think I'm actually going to get rid of this piece and we're going to work with the blue. So perfect. We've got the image that we want. Now we need to resize this image. As you can see, if I were to attach this to this side of this card at this point, it would not be a full door or the full length of the card. So I want to resize the height of this card first. So the first thing I'm going to do, or the height of this image first, the first thing I'm going to do is unlock it. Then I'm going to head up here to the height section, and I'm going to change this to 5.5. Now why am I changing it to 5.5? Because I know that's the height of my card base. Now, the other thing I want to do is I want to make it to be 4.25 wide, because we're going to work with the center of this image. And if I get it 4.25, then it should fold over correctly. So where it's 4.93, I want to change that to 4.25. Some of this makes more sense as we go. Okay. So I'm going to move this guy out of the way for a second. Now, another cool thing about Cricut is this. The last image you choose or you add to your page is the one that's in the front. I want to send this guy behind my card base to do this next set or this next piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to where it says arrange. I'm going to move it to the back. It's kind of just a simple thing that I like to do. I just like to keep my mat kind of clean like that. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to click on this one, and you can see I have this little cross in the middle. This lets me know the center of this image, which is super cool. I want to take this image with that little cross, and I'm going to head over to this square. And using that cross, I'm going to line the center up and down hair of that crosshair with the edge of this card. Now, I'm not worried about the height or the base or anything where it's not even. I just want to get this card in the middle of this image. Now, sometimes you can use your centering features and your aligning features, but for this particular one, you really can't, because this piece is no longer symmetrical, or it's no longer a perfect circle, so it would mess you up. So this is why I use that little crosshair. Just line it up on the edge of that card. Now I've got this guy lined up in the center on the edge of the card base. Now I want to worry about these pieces that are not lined up, and I'll show you what I'm going to do for that. I want to select all of the images that are on my mat, so I'm just going to click select all. However, if you have more than 2 images on the mat, you can specifically select your images as you need to. All right, so now I'm going to go up here to align. And using these pictures, these are my favorite. I don't have to remember horizontal and vertical and blah, blah, blah. I can just use these pictures. And I know I want to align these guys at the top like this. So I'm going to click that one. And did you see what it did? It cleaned up that edge where they weren't lined up exactly. And now my image is centered on my card. Now what I want to do is I want to take this blue shape and I want to duplicate it to use later. So I'm just going to duplicate it and send it over here to the side. Okay, that's because I've already done all the sizing, all the adjustments to it, and I don't want to have to do it again. So I'm just going to leave that guy over there and continue working here. So these images, if I were to cut these now, they are not attached. So I wouldn't have a card base. I just have 2 images that would cut, and they're not attached together or welded in any way. I need to weld them. So I'm going to click on the base, hold down Shift, and select the little scallop piece. Now I'm going to go down to the bottom right side of my panel here, and I'm going to click Weld. And when I do this, you'll see that the images turn one color and there's no line in the middle. This lets me know that this piece is welded together. Perfect, right? Easy. Now I'm going to select this little guy, which I know is the right size and everything it needs to be, and I'm going to bring it over to this side of my square. Now real quick, I'm going to turn this white again just to remember that this is the base. So see if I do that, now I can remember this is my card base. I can also see this image better. Now remember how we took that little crosshair and we lined it up on the side? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line it up on the side of this image. Just like so. Get it just like you want it. Back a little bit, I think. And I've got it lined up right on the edge. Now, one thing I'm going to do for my friends that are very OCD about this, and I know that you are because I've taught classes where I find this is a real problem for folks. Do you see that the gap is a little larger here than here, but it's the opposite here and here? I'm just going to flip this image so that it won't be that way anymore. So we're going to come and flip it vertically. Now do you see this space and this space? This space and this space will be the same. That doesn't matter to everybody, but I just wanted to show you how to take care of that. All right, so now I'm going to hit Shift and select our base. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to weld them together down here at the bottom. I keep wanting to go up here because it used to be up here, but it's down here now. Weld. This is our card base now. With this, I can put my information about the party or whatever I'm inviting someone to in the middle, and then these pieces can fold over to be the front or the doors of our card. Now you can do this with a much more frilly, doily looking piece. I did that in another video. I'll link that video too because it might help you just to see the old one along with the new one. Now we need to do something. I like to put my score lines in. Now honestly, you don't need to. You could score this after you cut it. This is no problem to line up on your scoreboard or even with a ruler and just score this by hand. But let me show you how this works. Let's head over here to Shapes. Let's grab a score line. Now, I know that I want my score line to be long enough to fit in this area. So you can change the size of your score line right here. So let's just go ahead and make my score line, I don't know, 5.5. It won't really matter. It's just a score line. Then I'm going to select the score line and move it right to this edge, just like so. Now, for me, this would be fine. It just means that whenever I score, it's going to score here and here, even though I don't need it. But if that bothers you, just go ahead and shrink it up to be exactly the length that you need it to be and move it into place. So my score line ended up being 4.486, and that works for me. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate the score line. I'm just going to click Duplicate, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to move it out of the way. We're going to use it in just a minute. I want to go ahead and attach this score line in place. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to hold down Shift and select our base, and then at the bottom of the screen on the right hand side you'll see where it says Attach. We'll click Attach. Now the Cricut knows that when it's time to cut, it is also time to score right here. If you don't attach it, it won't know where you want that score line to be, and it'll treat it as a separate image. Now let's do the same with this guy. Let's grab it. Let's line it up. Where did it go? It went behind. And I told you about that. That's because the last thing we worked on comes to the front. No big deal. Click Arrange and move your score line to the front. Now let's just line this guy up right where it needs to be. I'm going to have it selected, hold down Shift and select the piece in the back, and then we're going to attach that one. Now our score lines are attached and in place and we're ready to go. Now what I want to do is I want to create a piece that will layer inside of here for my text to live on. So I'm going to head over to Shapes and grab myself a square. We'll move it over here just to work with it. I like to kind of keep things separately for a little bit. Now this one is gray again. I don't like the gray, so I'm going to head over here to the square and change it to white. You can change it to any color. Gray is just not my favorite. Now I happen to know, because I made this square 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, that if I want to mat this in with a 1/8 inch border all the way around, I need to make this piece 4 by 5 1/4. Super easy. Select it. I'm going to head to the top. I'm going to click this little lock here. It does the same thing as clicking the little lock here. I love that we have multiple ways of doing things. It's my favorite. Then I'm going to click right inside of here and change this to 4 inches by 5 1/4. Now this piece will layer right inside here just perfectly whenever we're finished. And this is where I'll put my text. Now let's talk about text. I get a lot of questions about this. The biggest question is, why is it when I put my text on the screen, I have it like I want it, when I go, it's not there anymore? I'll show you why. Let's add in some text. Let's come down here and let's say we're going to put "you're invited." So now we have the text we want to live at the top of our little insert here. But this is not the kind of font I want it in. Let's talk about fonts. Fonts have moved, and I love it. They're out here where we can reach them. I'm going to click right here and show you what happens. Look how fast all of your font options come up. That's amazing. Now, another thing I want to show you is this. If you look at your fonts, you can see here what kind of font they are. This is a single layer cutting. This is a multi-layer cutting. And if I come down even further, we'll run into one that is a writing style. See how ballroom is called a writing style? Now, I'm going to use my Cricut marker, so I definitely want to use something that has a writing style. But instead of looking and looking and looking for all of those, I'm going to come right over here to the little filter button. I'm going to choose the word writing. Now I know what I'm looking at. All have writing styles. Let's use the one that says beadwork. This is pretty. I like it. Look how cute that is. Okay, now it's too big for my spot, so I'm going to shrink this down to make it where it will fit right inside of my card insert. So there it says "you're invited." Now that I've got it here, I don't love that font, so I'm going to go back over here and look at another one. It's a little too fancy for me, for what I'm looking for, so let's just look. This is cute. Bookmark. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, much better, because I can get this bigger, and I'm going to, did you see what just happened when I pulled it, and it all came proportionally? I'm going to unlock it, and this way I can make it any size I want it, any length, any height, anything. So "you're invited." So there's the first part. Now I'm going to add some more text just by adding a text box, and we'll put in "to a party," hit enter, and I'm going to put August 3rd, let's do August 3, 2017, and I'll put 2 p.m. By the way, I'm not having a party, so don't show up at my house. But anyway, here you go. So now I'm going to click this, this text and bring it up. Now, obviously, I'd want to center this text, so let me click it and come up here to alignment and tell it to center. So now my text is centered. It's a little too big. I'm going to unlock it and then put it into position where I want it to live. Something about like that looks good. Now, let's just say that you weren't real happy with how far apart the lines are here. You actually can adjust that, which is super cool. Let me show you how to do it. So with your text selected, come up to the top and see where it says line spacing. Watch what happens when I click this down button. Can you see how close they're getting together? So if you wanted your lines closer together, you can do that in the line spacing. Maybe for some reason you want your letters closer together. You can do that here. I don't really care to do that, so I'm just going to take that back out. Actually, I might want to stretch them. That looks kind of cool. And then I'm going to center it again. Now, this may not be perfectly centered, but I'll show you how to fix that. There's my center point here. I'm going to hold Shift and select that base underneath it. And then I'm going to click up here at Align and tell it to center everything. Just like that. Perfect. So let's say this is the inside of my card. I'm going to leave myself a space to write something. Now I'm ready to make the card. But the problem is, I want to show you, if I say go, if I say make it right now, let me click this button. Look what's going to happen. All my text is now thinking it's a separate image because I didn't attach it. So let me go back. I'm going to grab all of this text, holding down Shift and selecting each one and the base that they're sitting on. Then I'm going to come to the bottom down here, bottom right hand side, and click attach. Now watch what happens when we say make it. So you can see here now my text is right where I want it inside that square that's going to cut. Now all we have to do is continue, and we'll use our marker to write, and we'll cut both of these pieces out and put them together. So now my Explorer 2 Air 2 is connected. I'm going to use Cardstock Plus, so a little bit heavier than cardstock. I like to use that. And then we need to load our tools. First, it's telling us that we need to load the Midnight Pen. So my score tool is already loaded. Take that out of there. And I'll load my Midnight Pen, which you can use any color pen. I just happen to be using that particular one. I'm going to load my mat. Just putting that in. Now, because I'm using the Explorer Air 2 and I can do it in fast mode, I'm going to tell it to do it in fast mode. The reason is I really like how the markers work in fast mode. So now all I need to do is click the Cricut head. So my writing is done, and the Cricut will automatically cut the shape out as well. Now we can unload this one. So there is our inside piece, and it's bent, but don't worry, that'll be fine when I put it together. So there's the inside of our card. Now we can reload the mat. Now this time it's telling me that I need to change my tools, and my tool needs to be the scoring blade. So I'll put my score blade in, click it in and lock it down, and then all I have to do is say go. So before I remove this from the mat, before I unload it from my machine, the cut is fine. I feel like my cut did just fine, but I want my score lines to score twice in the spot just to be a little deeper. So before I remove this from my machine, before I do anything, I'm gonna click the Cricut icon again, and you have to click it twice. And it will cut exactly in the same place that it did the first time, but it will also score on those lines again. That's all I wanted. So at this point I can click pause, because I don't really need any more. And now I can just unload it because I just wanted those to do twice. Now look, I know exactly why this did this. I know this happens to us and it's frustrating, and I can tell you why. My mat is horrendous. I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to show you my mat. This is 100% my fault. We are doing a project for a class I have coming up, and we had to cut 80 different little pieces that I had designed, little pinky purses. And in doing that, you can see that my mat has all these white pieces on it. That is why that happened, because my mat is filthy. But I wanted to get this video out for you guys, so I just grabbed a mat. I'm not going to stress about that too much. I probably can clean that up a little bit, but I just wanted to show you how to do the card. Just make sure your mat doesn't look like this. This is a bad mat. But you guys say you like when I leave that stuff in for you to see, so there you go. So you can see exactly what my issue is there. And let's go put the card together. Now you finished the project, but you want to save it. You might want to save as you go. It's sometimes better to just go ahead and click save as you're going so you don't lose anything. It is an online program, and things can happen with your Wi-Fi or what have you. Trust me, I have the worst Wi-Fi, so things can happen with your Wi-Fi. So let's click save. Here I'm going to be able to change the name. So I'm going to call this one Gatefold card. And I'm going to leave this one as public because I'm going to share this file with you guys. So if you want it, you can get it. So I'm just going to leave it as public. Now, some people ask me, but if I leave them as public, can everyone see them? No, only if you share the link with people can they see them. But you can always turn this off if you'd rather. All right, I'm going to click save, and it will save it to my projects. You can see it was successfully saved, and we are ready to go. So here you go, the finished product, or the finished cut product. And remember me telling you I had that little spot that I think I can fix? I know, this is not perfect. And if I were doing wedding invitations or something like that, I probably wouldn't do it. But I really do think I can clean this up. Again, I know that was totally my fault for using a dirty mat because that mat was in bad shape. Okay, so my score lines are scored nice. If I do that second pass, I get a really good score. So I'm just going to push this in and let that score line kind of create itself. And then I'm going to crease it down. Now I want to say this. I know this is a very simple card design, and you're probably looking for something a little more fancy, but the idea behind this video is to show you the process. So see how these guys meet there in the middle? Now I'm going to glue my invitation to the inside. Just use a little glue here. And this now will glue, and it has that little edge that we created. So it's not exactly the same size as the center. It's got that blue edge around it. So can you see how it's not 100% even with the edges? We've got that little border. I love that. And then this closes. And you could tie a ribbon in the middle. You could do a little belly band on the card. You could do anything. Also, if you used something like this, you could even take circles and slice them out and make this even fancier on your own, whatever you want to do. But that gives you the idea of how to weld a shape and turn it into a gatefold card in Cricut. So this is solid, and there you go. I hope that helps. I'm going to link the video from the one I did before. It was a little fancier, probably made a little more sense, but I want you to see the difference between the old Design Space version, which would have been Design Space 2, or the new Design Space 3. You would have liked that. I think it'll be a good comparison. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful for you. If you do a project like this, Cricut or otherwise, we want to see it over on our Facebook group, which is called Maymay Made It, and so did I. Check us out over there and get some inspiration and bring your inspiration to us. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.